Hello, hello, RSC people. We are back at it again, once again, with the PreJump podcast. Going to be getting on episode 4 here. It's your boy, Boss Rodella, taking it to you live with Mr. Rob and Mr. Tech 4 for sure. Hopefully, everybody's been having a good night. How are you guys doing here?
I'm doing all
I'm
right.
doing pretty well, man. Excited to be here. We got some fun stuff to talk about, and I always love talking smack with both of you guys. So it should be enjoyable.
For sure, for sure. Well, fellas, we'll just kind of roll right into it. Don't want to keep our people waiting, so we don't roll too long tonight. For sure, let's talk a little bit about some player spotlights. We've kind of held off a little bit this season. We focus on some more key aspects, but I think it's about time we talk about some key players this season. Rob, do you want to go ahead and get us kicked off here for sure?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, right away, I think if you are going through all the players in RSC, the one that jumps out to you with the performance that they're having right now is signed by Roxy. In Elite, on Whale Defense. Yep, that
Yep.
one. Currently having 107 RPV, 18 and 6, on pace to break the points record in any single tier in RSC. Uh, Top 3 in the tier in goals, assists, and saves. Just having literally having a higher RPV than the Prem Smurf that was on Tech's team. Like it is laughable how much Roxy's been dominating the tier so far.
Double promo, put him in prem, confirmed.
I mean, if you outperform the Prem player, I don't know what you can say about it.
That's fair. I will say personally, I watched him playing in the first franchise fight night, not last week, but the week before, and he played it out in Elite, killed that Elite series, absolutely star-studded it out. But then they had him sub up into the Master Series. Dial had him sub in, and he rocked in the Master Series. I mean, he dropped like 700 and 800 points respectively. He was just absolutely banging in everything from any angle, and quite frankly, I mean, he's definitely feeling himself. He's got that confidence to be that level of offensive presence, and for sure, it's turning into a magical season for him.
I don't have much to add. I mean, dude's showing he's incredible, and Shark Attack's really not Shark Attack. Sorry, Well Defense should be
I
really
get him
lucky that they have him.
That's the one that I was gonna say when I hesitated to say Whale Defense. That's exactly what I was thinking.
That's fair. But okay, we've talked about Roxy. We don't need to obviously glaze him forever. Rob, who do you got next on your dock? Who do you got here next on your docket?
Next is someone who we actually talked a little bit about last season. They were a double promo after winning an MVP and are now currently on pace to win another MVP. With Light MCCYT. Coming from Contender, had a whopping 100.3 IDR and 95 RPV overall. Just absurd stats, right? Now they're in Chally with a 92 RPV. For reference, this is, most people know who Fluffy is. Fluffy had a 92 RPV in Chally and got double promoted to vet, right? So you could make the argument that this player right now could be a vet player. I'm not making that, right? But Light with a 92 in Chally might go to vet next season, and that would be 4 tiers covered, right, in 2 seasons. So just some ridiculous development from this guy. I mean, 454 points per game in Contender, 434 in Chally. I mean, 95 RPV. I mean, the win rate is actually better in Chally than it was in Contender. And it's granted they do have the weakest strength in the schedule so far, but I mean putting up numbers is putting up numbers, and that is basically unprecedented.
Yeah. So you guys know me. I haven't been on this season yet, but generally I'm the hater that comes in.
Yeah.
I call people frauds. It's not a good time. I'm not calling Light MC a fraud. I think he's a very good player. Huge props to him. However, like Rob alluded to, they haven't played anyone yet. They've played one good team in Chally. That IDR can be pretty inflated because of that. I mean, the 17-7 record is nothing to scoff at. Don't get me wrong, but I think they've only played one team that's over 500. So I'm interested to see kind of where that continues when they start having to play some of these top teams, and if Light MC's play style of being, very aggressive on the ball player is going to continue to give them the success in that time, or if you're going to look to see that you need more from other players in the team, and then all of a sudden those stats kind of go down a little bit. It will be really interesting to watch and kind of come back to for sure.
Well, and I definitely think you're definitely right. I mean, it's an interesting position where he could potentially be farming some stats from some of these weaker competition within the Chally tier. I definitely think, though, there is always the possibility. We talk about how fast the development can be for some of these lower tier fellas, especially coming from Tendi or coming from Ami. There's a lot of ceiling left to be had, and their floor is pretty low. So, there is always the possibility that at the end of the day, he could be or he could have already developed into that top tier Chally player, and he might be developing into a soon-to-be vet player. But I think Tech's got the right mind. We'll have to see how he does against stouter competition, and we'll see, I guess, going forward once he hits those above 500 teams, how well he's going to play.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, have you guys ever seen something like this? Like a player who had an argument to quad promo?
I don't think so. I mean, we've been around. I've only been around for 4 seasons. There's definitely a lot of RC that I've missed in the past, but I mean, potentially that could be, for me at least, a player that sets themselves apart across the board.
The only one that's really coming to mind, being somebody that's played in these lower tiers for a while, I've seen a lot of players get double promoted. I've seen players get triple promoted. Not very often do they succeed.
Yeah.
There's some that'll really be like, okay, they're good players, and eventually they're gonna jump up, like, cool. But one that comes to mind is just Laban. Sets all the records in their Emmy season. I want to say she went straight to prospect and then kind of right to rival after that. I don't think she ever played in Chally, but I could be wrong there.
I have Laban's SPV history. 92 RPV or SPV in Ami, 78 in prospect, then 80 in Chally, couple rival seasons, and then rival MVP into double promo. So yeah, that is a good shout of someone who's shot through the tiers. But even that, like,
it's still a little bit slower than what Light's doing for sure.
Yeah, but it's not to say it's not impressive, but I just he's overtaken a lot of people MMR wise in RSC and on pace to take even more. And I don't know if we've seen someone make a jump like. I mean, it could be one competitive season and you switch to PC, and all of a sudden you just take the 2 largest jumps possible. You start playing the game and it's easier. So, but I mean, I would love to, if however they end up doing, I think that might be an interesting interview that we could discuss at some point for the PreJump. I think that would be a really fascinating story to hear what they have to say about the journey they've kind of gone on.
For sure. It's definitely going to be a player we'll have to keep an eye on, and then potentially next season kind of come back and revisit. Tech, we've let Rob kind of cook a little bit here for these first 2 guys. Who do you have for some player spotlight going on?
Yeah, so I got some stuff. I'm going to look at some team stuff too, but before jumping on that, again, you guys know me. I don't really like talking about my own franchise, but when we talk about a player that gets that PC buff and comes out of nowhere, I just have to shout out Spooky RL, also in Chally. Currently rocking a 93 SBV, 124 IDR, and
it's crazy. That's a crazy IDR to have.
We brought him in as our third. Like, he was fourth round keeper, I think. Might have been a 3rd round keeper, but he was a guy. Played a whole season in Chally last season, 40 SPV, 38 IDR. Like, fine player. Had a great season in Prospect before that, but hit that PC buff, and man, he is pairing up Challenger
Yeah.
right now.
You can see it in the ranks too. I just pulled up their tracker, and they have peaked in 2s and 3s by a decent margin this season, hitting up to 1380 in 2s and 1330 in 3s, which is a mid-tier. That looks like a lot of rival players' ranks. So that's very impressive. Even getting up to almost champ 2 and 1s is really impressive from a Chally player.
Yeah, he's been grinding. He has a bunch of really good coaches right now. But props to him. Jumping more on like a more team-based thing, I do want to look at a couple teams, couple players in that, and there's some really cool stories here. So first off,
Ooh,
I wanna
couple
look at-
teams.
yeah,
For the team spotlight, you mean?
I told you, my player spotlight was based on teams.
Well,
Okay, well let's let Rob run through his quick shout outs, and then we'll
Yeah,
just let you
hater.
cook your way through both
Alright.
segments here.
So really quickly, speaking of Spooky, that is your RSC goal leader at the moment across all tiers, with 40 right now, and also your hat trick leader with 6. So just absurd amount of goals right now. Roxy, as I said earlier, was leading points in RSC with 12,566. Crazy. In assists right now, your leaders are Hand Grenade and Taz.rm at 27. Both of them are in vet. This one is crazy. Saves, Brody and Prem is already at 58. So
Wow.
I know we were talking about Anti's save record and whatnot from last season, right? And you're like, oh man, not Laban had more saves. Yeah, but might get that savior record at 24. Brody has 15, and we're not even halfway through the season. So savior wise, I mean, Brody, he's on pace for some like absolutely otherworldly, never before seen defensive statistics. So that's going to be cool to keep an eye on. In cycles, you have Roxy, Jim John, and Anarchrist all tied at 11. That's Elite, Prem, and Rival. Playmakers, your leader is Godzilla and Contender with 4. And finally, your best record goes to Lepless Demon. Don't know how to say that. They're 19 and 1 in Challenger right now.
And for those
Before,
that don't know, that is a name change of Chelsea Acacia.
okay. So before I throw the mic back to Tech here, so he can absolutely cook, I just want to give a shout out real quick to a player that some of you might not know already. His name is Minja. Numbers looked at his placements. His first time ever in the league. They pulled his peak from season 14 of Paid to Play. Like, they pulled his peak from way back when and placed him in Chally. And I believe he was Diamond 2, Diamond 3. And they placed him in Chally. He has a 27.5 SPV right now. He's doing his best to really get his footing. But the man, he's making the best of a tough situation. I'm not going to lie.
I actually just traded for one of his teammates. So
Fair.
taking away
Fair,
the help
fair.
around him too, making the situation even better. You know.
I know you're doing great for his first season, but Tech,
What
my
can you
man,
say?
you've got the players, you've got the teams. Go ahead and cook, my man.
Yeah, so like I was saying, some really cool stories here. First off, I want to stop in Prospect, and I want to look at Whiskey Business. Currently, the number 1 team by stats. They are sitting at 19 and 5. If we compare that to last season, they made semifinals at 32 and 20, so a little bit of a step up. And you might start to wonder, kind of, how did they do this? So first off, they brought back Rose Fnatic, having a phenomenal season. Last season, Rose had a 74.5 RPV, so one of the better players in Prospect. Might have made the All-Star ballot, but wouldn't have been an All-Star, kind of in that range. This season, playing a little bit better at an 82.2, so definitely All-Star capable player there. And then it gets really interesting. They also brought back Canadian Gamer. Now, Canadian Gamer in Season 18 was the only tier minimum player in the entire tier. at 1045. There was not a single other one. And in season 18, he had an RPV of 21.1. This season, all of a sudden, Canadian Gamer absolutely balling out with an RPV of 78.1, which puts him at 6 overall in the RPV standings. And their third, another player that had a horrible season 18. It was Nate, who played both on the Skeletons and in the Inert and Enemies at one point, sitting at 29 RPV last season. This season picked up by Whiskey, 73.7 RPV, sitting at 9th, which puts their top 3 players at 4th, 6th, and 9th in RPV, and really 2 incredible season turnarounds in the same tier that they were last season. And if you're curious, their 4th is DeBry, sitting at 66 RPV. So they have a full squad of players that can absolutely ball, and I mean, hats off to them. Not only continuing the success from last season, but really showing huge improvements among their players.
Yeah, I agree. I think you kind of covered all of the major points with that. You go ahead, boss. You saying something?
No. I'm letting you cook,
look
my
like
man.
you
I'm
wanted
just
to.
hanging out,
All
having
right.
a good time.
On me. Whoa. What? I don't know. I must have had a pause moment. I didn't notice. That's unlucky. That's gonna be.
I didn't know.
clip
I
and
didn't
send
notice, but somebody clip it. Whatever it was, clip
Not in
it,
the
send it
Christian
to us.
Minecraft stream. Oh god. Oh god.
Oh, man.
Well, I think that it is really impressive, as you pointed out. All 4 of their players performing at a really high level. Granted, one was only in one series, but a 4-0 putting up a 67 RPV as a 4th man. What more can you ask for? You know. So I think that's a really good shout of a team out here upsetting Twitch. Goodness gracious. Yeah, good points. Sorry, got a little rattled.
Oh, we can move on.
You're good, man. You're good.
Jumping into Contender, another team to look at, Gluttony. Currently the top team in Contender at 20-4, so phenomenal season, even doing better than Whiskey right now. Last season they got second place with a 38-18 record, lost in finals. This season, very different style of building a team. First off, we talked about Light, another guy that I believe was on same franchise. Anyway, was played for their sloth team, their Contender team was TSG Icy. Had a phenomenal season. I believe he might have even been the MVP in finals, won finals with an 80.5 RPV. Currently this season sitting 13th overall in RPV with a 60.6. And then they bring in 2 somewhat brand new guys to the league. So Godzilla, I believe, was in the league last season, but didn't play. I don't believe he played any games, or at least I can't find records of that. 112 RPV, sitting first overall in
112.
Contender.
Yeah, 112
Wow.
is crazy. Yeah.
And then Oversized Frog, who I know is brand new to the league this season, sitting at 80.4 RPV, 5th overall in the tier. So interesting to see that, you have 2 teams in 2 tiers. One brings back a lot of players that were in the same tier with massive improvements. The other bringing in some brand new players and really just putting them with their AMI promote. And both these teams are just absolutely cooking right now.
Yeah, they are.
Fair.
They're 20-3 is crazy. For that's one of their individual records, but they're 20-4 as a team. Still unbelievable, but man, those top 3 are 17-2, 20-3, and 20-3. So that is really, really impressive coming out from them.
For sure. Well, fellas, do you have any other teams you want to cover, or do you feel like that's probably an adequate spot to move on to talking about next week's matches?
I'm good.
Take us away.
Fair, fair. Well, fellas, we've only got 2 games on the docket coming up here. We're going to have a matchup on Monday. It's going to be a contender series, Ice versus Dread. At 10:50, the 11:30 slot is still available for anybody who's looking to play. If you don't know how to sign up, you can find that information under league info in the RSC 3v3 server. There is a documentation called How to Sign Up for Stream. Completely walks you through the process. Super simple, super helpful. But we'll go ahead and dive a little bit into this matchup here. It's going to be a 12-win Ice team versus a 7-win Dread team. Ooh, this is not updated. It's only got 16 games displayed when I know for a fact they've played 6 matches. So let me go ahead and pull this
Ice,
up. I don't
I
know
got
the
you.
graphics
Ice
generator
is
does
15
that.
and 9, and Dread is 12 and 12 at the moment.
12 and 12. Okay, so it's definitely not a huge shift, but they're definitely looking a fair bit still in favor of Ice. Well, we talked about it last couple weeks ago, and our predictions actually weren't terrible. How do you guys feel this matchup's going to go?
Well, looking at it right away, both teams, all 4 players are above a 49 RPV. So both really impressive starting lineups and fourth man, which I did not expect to see, especially because neither of the teams seems to be going too crazy. But I would have to go with Ice, right? I mean, they have a player who's 14 and 4. So presumably when they've missed is when they've dropped a few more of those games. But as the starters have seemed to cook, I mean, it's tough to see. I mean, if you got one team that's 14 and 4 and one team that's 500, right? Like, you probably got to pick the one that's operated at a higher level more consistently.
True,
Yeah, so
Assuming they have their starters.
interesting matchup to look at. I mean, I guess same kind of disclaimer. I gotta assume that all the starters are kind of coming out there. Really could go either way. You look at strength of schedule, although Dread's a little bit further down the standings, they have had a harder strength of schedule. Not by a whole lot. So Ice being 15 and 9 and strength of schedule still being over 500 puts them at the hardest strength of schedule out of any team above 500. So it's not like they've had an easy road. Could be interesting. I got to give the edge to Ice. If I'm going to just kind of call out something, I'm going to say it's going to be a 3-1 for them.
That's fair. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. The stats aren't properly reflected in the graphic that I pulled up, but from what I'm looking here, still between team stats, it still pretty heavily favors Ice. Their offense looks to be a little bit more prolific this season, and I definitely would have to agree it's probably going to be a 3-1 in favor of Ice.
I agree. I think 3-1 is a fair, safe call. I don't think they're going to 4-0. They haven't been cooking as a unit that heavily. And Dread seemed like they are no slouches of their own. So, yeah, I think 3-1. Ice probably takes a pretty close series, but takes it handily.
For sure, for sure. Well, before we roll into Wednesday's games, I just want to shout out, it's going to be Thog and BB Comedian on the desk for that matchup, so that'll be a pretty fun casting crew. BB Comedian, for those of you who don't know, this is his first full season casting with media, but he's been rolling in pretty well, and Thog making the return. Love to see it. Hope to see him more involved as well, but going into Wednesday's matchup, the matchup day 8, it's going to be an elite matchup. Azathoth versus Uranus. Definitely going to be a great matchup.
Who?
You heard me.
I
You heard me.
I did not know that I was.
I'll even put that name up on screen. Buddy, you have no idea how exciting it is when we get teams like this or names like this. We had a Hose on one of the lineups. I can't remember what team he played for, but HUD and I were casting. One of the players' names was Hose. And my man, there needs to be a counter because the fact that we're given a green light for it is nuts. But matchup Wednesday, and this is going to be outdated. I can already feel it. Let me pull up it only shows 16 games played. which I'm guessing is definitely not right because this shows Azathoth were 14-2 and Uranus was 6-10. So I'm gonna go on a limb here as I'm trying to pull up the standings that those aren't correct. Oh God, Elite Azathoth they're 18-6, and then Uranus
Mickey.
is 11-13.
Mickey 18-6.
Yeah. So I think it's probably only fair that I start here. You look at the stats. Anybody that does not know, you look at the stats and you say Azathoth just sweeps this cleanly, like no problem. I gotta call my own team frauds. And it's unfortunate because unknowing to us, we drafted a Prem player who was smurfing.
No.
Oh
Oh
God.
no. I three-peated, and now I accidentally got the Prem player on my team. Oh, boo-hoo.
Oh no.
I mean,
Okay, go
I
ahead,
get
Jack.
you.
Go ahead.
Realistically, I've publicly gone out and said I'm super happy that he was found and he was banned.
Yeah.
That shit's
Yeah.
not okay in our league.
And that he started out 17-3, but
That does help.
I'm joking.
But
I'm
the
joking.
problem is
I
it
know
meant
you would
we
never. I
kind
know
of
you
had to
would never do that.
rebuild after we've cut players that we didn't want to.
Yeah.
But they'll regain. So this is going to be a much closer matchup just in overall skill than the stats look for sure. Also, I just have to shout out my team. You know, I built the team without thinking that whatever DE I drafted was going to be amazing. Turns out they were a Prem player. Whoops. So we still have the people that I planned on being on the team. Really, really do think that they're phenomenal players. They're phenomenal people. I'm gonna give a huge shout out to my guy Flexi, old man Flexi. Dude's awesome. Dude's a great person. Probably one of the best captains I've ever had. And after this year, don't poach him from me, please. But after this year, if any GMs are looking for an AGM out there, I would highly recommend this guy. I hope they go out and perform well. We'll see. I don't know much about Uranus. Fucking love saying that name.
You could though.
I sure could find out. Let me know.
On me.
If I'm gonna put a score on it, I have to say 2-2, just because it's one of my teams. I like to
One of your
think
teams
Castilla
on
broke
stream?
that. Well,
Yeah.
Castilla, like they should have broke the curse when they went 3-1 earlier this season, but then my rival team went out in 2-2, so we'll just say 2-2 curse
Yeah.
continues.
You
Boss,
know,
what are you thinking?
I had the luxury of casting for Tech's team when they were on an absolute roll last season. And everybody's like, no, they're going to break the curse. They're going to break the curse. It's going to happen. They're going to break the curse. And I'm like, I don't know, man. It's like there are three things in life that are guaranteed. You will eventually die. You're going to have to pay taxes. And a Tech 4 team is probably going to go 2-2 on stream. And
Can I stop you just for 1 second, just to kind of paint this whole picture of that day? This was our last match on stream, and the rest of my franchise was undefeated going into that match. Every single team 4-0'd. Ami 4-0'd, Contender 4-0'd, Prospect 4-0'd, Chally, that was Chally, Rival 4-0'd, Vet 4-0'd, and Elite 4-0'd. Chally goes on, which is the best roster in Chally by far, because I took on phenomenal players that other teams cut. Absolutely demolished game 1. Absolutely demolished game 2. You think the curse is broken. We might go undefeated. Lilo completely lags out and disconnects in game 3. Destroys the mental. They lose game 3 and game 4. And the curse not only continues, but we lose to Winner, and that's part of the reason why I had to pick him up as my AGM this season, because he was the only one that could kill us.
Just gotta lock in, I guess.
I'm not gonna lie, I really thought you guys were just gonna roll on it, and then all of a sudden, boom, disconnect. I'm like, oh great, this is how it goes. This is like, and they were holding their own, and then I think Dondo got a demo on the back line to steal that game, and I'm just like, Dude, that is what are the
Oh, was
odds?
that was my Chally team?
Yeah, that was your jelly
I
team.
remember. I forgot that was the one that had Yagi on it, right?
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
yeah. Fun fact, actually, Iwu, Quaza, and Neutrino are in a different league playing against Yagi's full RSC team. It's not his rival team, but it's him and two other RSC people against my full RSC team in a completely separate league in upper finals. So RSC
Amazing.
representation with Yagi and two players in Jolly with history on my team. So fun parallel again.
Oh god. I yeah, I'm going 2-2. I'm going 2-2 on it. It just seems like the clear-cut case to go with at this point.
I'm never betting against Donald, man. I You said there were three certainties, right?
Yeah.
What happens when an unstoppable object meets an immovable force? Well, I reversed it. Don't worry about it. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? There we go. Um, that's Azathoth on stream against Donald, right? Donald 4-0s everything, but Azathoth only 2-2s. So I think I'm gonna have to call it a 3-1, somewhere in the middle there. And I think Azathoth, without a true identity right now, is gonna have a hard time showing up against the powerhouse of Elite and Donald.
I
Fair,
will
fair.
say, last time Azathoth was on stream versus Donald, we brought home a trophy.
At first and only time for everything. Donald is a fluke. Donald never loses.
Well,
He loses a lot.
fellas, that'll wrap up our standard RSC matches next week. We do have the luxury. We're going to be running a show match on Friday. I'm trying to line up this 1v1 to make sure it happens because it'll be pretty interesting. I don't want to say names until we actually get it squared away. But we're looking at a 1v1 and then potentially another matchup after. But we'll when I get details, I'll go ahead and create an event for it on the server. That way everybody can see what's going on. And I did post to the Fight Night channel. So if you know a GM and you want your teams to play on March 1st for the franchise Fight Night, please poke your GMs because I don't know if I should just ping them all or if they're going to get all upset when I ping people because for some reason people hate pings. But we'll roll with it. We'll see how it goes. Anywho, fellas, that rolls us into our last segment of the night, talking a little bit about the community clash. To set the scene for everybody who hasn't really been following along, all four of the major leagues that are involved in Amateur Rocket League, we're talking United Rogue, we're talking Frontier Doubles League, we're talking Minor League Esports, and yours truly, RSC Rocket Soccar Confederation, combined together under the guidance of Chris with a K. That's his whole name. It's not literally just Chris with a K. It's Chris with a C in it. And it says with a K. I just want to point that out. That's his whole name. But he lined up. It was 8 teams, 2 from each league. And every league picked their 2 best teams. Except for RSC.
All of the leagues picked their 2 best teams, boss. You are correct. You don't have to say anything else from there. Needless to say, we were there. The team that's ranked last in Master right now, competing against the best of the best. The best player in RSC statistically was playing for another league against us. Like, it was tough, man. There's a high level of competition that day.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie to you. When I was looking at the lineups, I'm looking at some bubble players. Like, oh my god, these guys are like goated. They've got some star-studded talent. And then I look at I was expecting to see like Tarbage Crux or somebody from from our Prem teams, not 2 master teams. And I'm not trying to throw shade. I'm not trying to go out there, but it kind of represents poorly when we're like, hey, by the way, master team, go out there and try to body some bubble teams.
The dude with the best RPV in Prem and a team around him that literally wouldn't fit our salary cap. Like,
oh god,
man. That said, we took them to 3 OTs. We did technically get swept. You can ignore that part. But we took them to 3 OTs, and as a team that's 250 to 300 MMR below on average, I would say, I mean, we arguably should have won multiple of those games, and we had the opportunity to, and we didn't capitalize. But I mean, we performed probably better than anyone could have expected, and that's pretty cool. So we got some confidence moving forward, but 3 OT losses against a 1900 2K team, like,
Well, and I casted that matchup or that series, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't see like a beatdown. I was so nervous when we were talking in the beginning with the
Yeah.
other casters from the other leagues,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Hey, boss, how do you feel like this is gonna line up for your guys' teams?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's
all
gonna be
the other
great. We're
teams
gonna get we're
were
gonna get."
cracked. They were like, we're gonna win the whole thing. You're doomed. And you were trying to be supportive, but also not say that the 1700 team is about to go take down all the 2K teams.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh yeah, this is gonna be great." But you guys, you really did. There were a lot of. It could have been a lot worse. You lost by 3 goals in a sweep, which wasn't terrible because all, like you said, all 3 games went to OT. It was a lot closer than it probably should have been. And also at the same time, the other team, Glacier Mint, did win their opening round against the Frontier
go.
Double Leagues team. So they
I
actually
think
played in the.
Nick, was on the team they played against too. Master player was on the roster that they played.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
So it, all in all, like I really do believe if we could have gotten a couple Prem teams, and I don't know if it's whoever organized didn't really like push for it, or maybe it was the wrong method of communication. Maybe they made a post and just waited for a team to reach out. But it really represented not as bad as it could have, but I think we would have honestly, if we had 2 Prem teams going in there, we probably would have taken a lot of these teams to the brink and probably won quite a bit more, and potentially would have seen an RSC finals.
Yeah, I agree. We're kind of bad. So if we send people who weren't as bad and we still did pretty well, imagine how the people who were not bad would do, you know?
All right, guys. If they do it again, I'll play it for you.
Oh, thank you, Tech. I appreciate that.
No, Doodle, we did not come in last. Actually, with Glacier Mint winning their series, FDL was eliminated in the opening round. We were eliminated in the semifinals. Same with MLE, and then United Rogue actually got their 2 teams into the finals. Granted, that was their best 2 teams in their entire league, and they won some scrapers along the way. But all in all, like it
almost got gapped by some master teams.
FTL, more like fucking destroyed losers.
You tell
Got
him, Tech.
'em.
You tell him,
Tech.
Tech.
Tech. Come on. Let's go. We got cheesed. RSC wins it. If we but jokes aside and whatnot, like if we send Prem teams, like we smoke the rest of them. So I think that next season when we do this and I'm in Prem, I'm gonna go again.
You did get quiet, Rob. Did you move away from your mic or something?
Is it better now?
I'll just turn you up a little bit.
Hello.
Whoa.
All right, just talk normal. We'll see if it comes through normal now.
Hello there.
Yeah, it's better. I just turned you up a little bit.
Nice.
Okay. So I'm excited. I talked with the organizers of it. They're going to be setting it up again in the future. We're not really sure where it's going to be or when it's going to be and how it's going to plot out, but they did say we're going to do our best to make sure we get some Prem players and some Prem teams going. That way, hopefully we have a much better shot at it. But, made some solid friends along the way, got to cast some good people, and it was all in all pretty good. Oh, I almost forgot. We had the title card I could have put up this entire time while we were talking about it. Fantastic on my part.
Oh, that looks great. Great title card.
But my
That's us.
man, I think it's a good idea. At least getting the all the leagues involved together, it really creates such a strong community because for sure we do we have players that play in MLE. We've got players that play in United Rogue. We've got players that play in FDL. So for sure, I definitely think there's a solid opportunity there to branch out, meet some new people, and potentially get some more people in RSC. And I really do hope we do it again sometime soon.
Yeah, me too, man. It was a lot of fun. It'd be even more fun if we were better at the game. But
Well, fellas, that kind of brings us towards the end of our show here. Does anyone have anything else that they would like to talk about? We've actually only been going at it for 45 minutes. This has probably been the fastest I think our pod has ever been. Goodness gracious.
I got nothing. I think
Silence.
we've covered. I mean, I think we've covered everything.
No,
And
we're getting somewhat close to that halfway mark of the season for a lot of tiers. Just gonna say, seems like everything's running pretty well so far, other than some shitty teams that had premier players on it that shouldn't have. Kind of happy with how RSC's going. So,
Me too, man.
shout out to everybody and appreciate it.
Oh, you know what? That is actually one last thing I do want to point out. So next week on the podcast, we are going to be through the halfway point of the season. We'll have match day 8 done, so we will have our stat recap a little bit here, where we'll talk about some stat leaders. We'll talk about our top 10s, who's in the lead in what series, and we'll talk about who's frauds or not. So definitely make sure you tune in next week. Get a good preview and good recap for how the season's been going. Otherwise, like I said, my name has been Boss Radala. I've had Rob and Tech4 on the desk tonight. But we'll go ahead and we'll catch you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.